What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Kizer Odin. A few of you may remember me unboxing this a while back. Really interesting knife. I definitely have a lot to say about it. If you are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews. I like to do unboxings and discussion videos, and I've got a Knife Guy series on the weekend. If you like regular content uploads surrounding knife stuff, this might be the channel for you. So go ahead and subscribe and make sure your notifications are set to all. Anyways, let's go ahead and get an overall measurement of this guy. Kizer Odin coming in at exactly 9 inches. I read that on the spec site and I thought, 9 inches? No, that's about the size, this knife is about the size of a PM2. And then I went back and I measured it again off camera and I was like, holy cow, this thing is 9 inches. For whatever reason, it is deceptively long. From tip to scale, your blade length is coming in at about 4 inches. The actual cutting edge is also about 4 inches. In fact, if I'm being honest, it's slightly over, given that we have this angle here and where the edge actually starts. I mean, this is legitimately, this is a 9-inch knife with a 4.1-inch cutting edge. We have an excellent cutting edge to, or blade to length ratio there. That's amazing. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here. How about up against the Ontario Rat Model 1? Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see there. Size is put into perspective. I need to clean that rat off, huh? So it's ready for the camera. Up against the PM2. PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. You can see there it is substantially larger than PM2. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. Just about dropped it there. How about up against the Para 3? Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Let me give you guys an example of the action. If you remember when I unboxed it, I was really impressed with this. That's right. This is a fall shut knife. No help needed. Now, I made a comment that I was not expecting that from a Kizer knife, and I had a few people go, what are you talking about? Kizer makes great knives. I think my delivery was bad. I've handled a lot of Kizer knives, and I'm always impressed by them, but I feel like the action and how they feel and look is appropriate for the prices that are asking of them. Let me make this clear. The action on this is indicative of a knife that is substantially more expensive than what it actually costs. This knife feels really, really good on the action, and it really, I mean, it's unbelievably smooth, guys. The detent, it allows for the flipper tab to create for a snappy action, and it's just really, really nice. I will say that there's a mysterious, first time I've ever had this happen, a case of ghost lock stick. What I mean by that is the lock stick will appear for a moment right there, and then other times, I bet it doesn't do it this time, yeah, it's just not present. I don't know what that is, but like most situations with lock stick, I imagine it'll work itself out. Let's go ahead and weigh it here real quick. And overall weight on the Kizer Odin coming in at 4.62 ounces. Not bad for a 9-inch knife that is full titanium with some carbon fiber inlays. We'll get more details on that here in just a moment. Sorry, turning my scale off. The inside here you can see full titanium, not milled. There are pockets I would imagine milled to accept these carbon fiber overlays. They're kind of overlays, and I say that because they raise up a little bit over the top of the titanium. Really, really nice. Nice weight, nice size, absolutely. Let's go over the anatomy of the blade. What we have here is kind of a, I mean, it's kind of a sheep's foot blade, but you can see here we've got, it's straight and the belly starts here, but there's a sudden and I don't want to say violent curvature, but it kind of makes this blade shape unique in that it's got this sudden curvature, much like what happens with a Tanto blade, except this area is rounded and you don't have two completely separate grinds. Now, I don't know if this is, immediately advantageous in any specific situation, but I would imagine as you slice, perhaps the curvature of the belly will make slicing movements a little bit easier as you round out to the end of the blade. I don't know. It's interesting, and it creates for a nice, elegant look in this knife overall. The profile of this knife is very classy, cool, kind of it's like James Bond's work knife. I don't know. It's cool. I like stuff like that. Kizer does a great job with their stonewash finish. I really like that. God, Lee, I'm so happy with this lighting. I mean, isn't this great? We can see everything now. You guys don't have to trudge through Metal Complex's channel, get, an inch from your TV screen to know what the heck he's talking about. Anyways, stonewash finish just looks beautiful. Kizer does a nice job with their logos being subtle. You can see here we do have S35VN. Everything on this blade is nicely rounded off. All the edges, you can see there, even on the inside of the opening hole, everything is nicely rounded off. I really appreciate that. There's nothing that it's something that really bothers me on any knife when edges are very sharp, and I can take my fingernail and I can grind a bunch of my fingernail off just by running it along the edges there. You can see over here, we have the maker's logo. The maker's name is Ivan, excuse me, Braganitz. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. That would be the maker of this knife. I would imagine here what we're looking at is the maker's logo. And then for whatever reason, in the most generic font they could possibly find, they just put Odin right there. I mean, just why? We know what it is. We bought it. Don't put that on the blade. The blade is perfect other than that weird... It's I don't know. It's weird. This is like a labeling sticker for when they're going on the shelves, but it's not. It's actually lasered into the blade. I don't like that. Why did they do that? It's not a deal breaker. There's that ghost lock stick again. It's not a deal breaker at all, but that's just bizarre to me. For those of you wondering, you absolutely can deploy it with the reverse flick. That hole is in a good spot. Definitely no issues there. You also can, if you can get your thumb in the right place, you can use the standard thumb flick to open the blade. You do have to kind of be in exactly the right position, and you can't have your hand too far up here, because then the flipper tab is going to come down on your finger and it's going to make it hard to open. Truthfully, the only ways I would ever open this are with the flipper tab, more ghost lock stick as we go through the review, and then the reverse flick back there. Up here we do have some absolutely functional jimping. You can see here it's actually kind of in a unique pattern. I'm not sure what the benefit of that is, but it looks nice and it absolutely does work. It's functional jimping all the way around. Moving down to the handle frame here, we have what looks like a typical bead blasted titanium frame. We have a nice polished standard Torx head pivot. By the way, there's also jimping on the flipper tab. The flipper tab is kind of one of those long, pokey flipper tabs, but it works just fine. It's not uncomfortable at all. It looks like it might be uncomfortable, but like I said, everything is nicely rounded off, so no issues there. And then moving down to these overlays here, truthfully, my favorite part of this knife, these overlays follow the curvature. They follow the lines of the handles, and it allows the titanium to sort of shadow box it, except it's just a large shadow boxing, but they're textured. They've actually got ridges, which means there's functional traction right here. Not just for looks, but it's not often that you can texture carbon fiber and make it functional and make it look good, but they managed to do that here. I mean, not everybody's gonna like this, but I really like how this looks. It's set into, I don't think it's set right on top of it. I think it's actually set into the titanium, but it's set in there perfectly. It really looks nice, and I like it a lot. Taking a look at the screws here, you can see the screws are, unfortunately, that little teeny tiny size that I don't like. I've covered that a million times. That little size, it's easy to round the teeth out on the tool, and given that these are made in China, if you need spare parts because you rounded one out or you stripped one out, then that's going to be a hassle. I don't like that. Just universally, I asked all manufacturers or any new makers, make your screws a bigger size so that we don't have to deal with that, and so we can apply more torque without, really having to pay the price if that happens. A lot of people say don't apply too much torque. Well, that means a different thing to every single person. Some people find, kind of a sense of ease when their screws are tightened, to a certain level. Some people crank on their screws way too hard, and some people don't. But this would alleviate that variance, or at least the potential bad outcomes of that variance if you would just use bigger screws. Maybe there's more that goes into it that I'm aware of, but that's just my request. The backspacer's interesting. You have it looks like two separate positions for your lanyard. I mean, there's a loop here and a loop here, so whether you prefer it to be back here or up here, I mean, I don't know why that would matter, but it's interesting, and what they've done here is out of the way. There's a little bit of texturing here in a frag pattern, kind of like frag, and there's space, another sort of frag there. I like that. It looks really, really nice. The only downside to this is that gunk will inevitably get trapped in there. That's not really a big deal. It doesn't really matter that gunk gets in there. It's just going to be unsightly. It can be cleaned out. Not that big of a deal. Flipping over to the other side, we have a very interesting titanium milled pocket clip. A lot of detail on that pocket clip. And you know what? It actually functions really, really well. I know you guys can't see, so you're always like, why do you do that? We can't see you putting it in and out of your pocket. But the pocket clip functions well. It's a little bit smooth right here. This is a little bit pokey, but it's not sticking up, so you don't run the risk as much of it snagging on something and breaking off. No issues with the pocket clip. The knife's going to carry about right here, so there's going to be a little bit sticking out, but not too much. The relief cuts are interesting. I always find it fun when companies are willing to do interesting things with the relief cut on the titanium lock bar. And I mean, probably everybody knows this, but for those of you who don't, the relief cuts are made so that you actually can move the titanium lock bar over without too much force. If there were no relief cuts made, this would be much harder to move over. So that's interesting. You do, of course, have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. So that's, you know, it is what it is. It's pretty much on every titanium frame lock, every production titanium frame lock out there. Lockup on this guy coming in at about 35, maybe 40%, and the centering is coming in dead perfect. I didn't mention this. This knife was sent to me by the Pass Around Group, which means by extension Kizer, so it was, you know, presented for review by the manufacturer. It's not going to affect, I mean, you guys know this by now, that doesn't affect my review process. I don't get to keep it. It's going on to the next reviewer. All the way around, this is a handsome knife, and ergonomically, yeah, it's very comfortable. I mean, the handle is a plain Jane looking handle with a little bit of, it's straight and then sort of some curvature here, so it fits the palm better than a handle that's perfectly straight. The overall carry profile is light and thin, so you can see here up against something like the PM2 or the Para 3, it's actually, despite it being a substantially longer blade and longer knife all the way around, you can see the height of this is nowhere near the height of the Para 3 or the PM2. In the pocket, this thing just doesn't take up a lot of room. It's nice and smooth in and out of the pocket. You can see they're folded up. I mean, we have an overhead view now, so there's nothing skewing the view here. It's only slightly longer than the PM2. So I can tell you, if you're comfortable carrying the PM2, this is not going to be a problem, but you get to carry a 4.1 inch blade. Now, obviously that's going to be not okay in certain areas. If it's legal where you are to carry that big of a blade, then great. But I mean, that's amazing. I mean, this has got one of the best blade to handle ratios that I've seen, especially in a larger knife. I think the ZT0452 or whatever that big, long, crazy thing was is a really good example of a knife like that. But honestly, this is just a little bit more elegant to me. This is more of a knife that I could see myself carrying in an EDC scenario. That lock stick is just bizarre to me. This is happening on and off. I mean, it's been the same thing since I've got it. Now, I haven't sat around and played with it a lot, but right there was no lock stick. And again, no lock stick right there. And there's a little bit of lock stick right there. And no lock stick right there. I mean, it's literally happening like in real time on the camera. Like I said, I imagine it'll go away, so I'm not going to judge it for that, but I want to be organic and honest about what's happening on camera, and that's what's happening there. Anyways, back to ergonomics. Very, very comfortable. The pocket clip is designed in a way that does not create a hot spot unless you're moving sort of down and your hand's like poking into the pokey tip of that. In any other scenario, you're really not going to feel that. I mean, this is just comfortable. I mean, it feels good. The blade also feels like it gets not super thin behind the edge, but thin enough. I mean, this is going to be plenty good at your generic EDC tasks, and I don't think it's going to shy away from any outdoor tasks either. This is a handsome knife, and I'll tell you what, I looked up the price on Blade HQ. We're looking at CPM S35VN, carbon fiber, and titanium for $189 or $190. It's running on bearings, obviously. Yeah, I totally see that. I have no issue with that price whatsoever. This is a great knife. I really like this. There's no part of me. I mean, a lot of times I'm like, yeah, it's great, but it could be 20 bucks cheaper. I'm not even gonna say that this time, guys. I would imagine that you know, this is kind of a rogue circumstance of this phantom lock stick or this ghost lock stick that comes and goes. And I imagine even in my knife's case, it'll go away. I would say the Kizers that I have handled have not had issues with lock stick, so I would say don't fear that and go for it. If you like the look of this knife, you're really going to be impressed with the build quality. This is awesome. I really like this. This is one of my favorite knives that I've ever seen come out of Kizer. Perhaps second only to the Gemini, and even then, if I were handling that knife right now with this knife, I'd be able to build a case for the Odin. Plus, that's just a cool name, right? Odin, father of Thor. Is that the mythology? I don't know. The only reason I know that's because I watch the Marvel movies. But that's super cool. Really, really like this knife. I think you guys will too. That's going to be pretty much all I can say about this knife, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to take a look at my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.